Let me turn on this TV.
Westbound HRBC not so bad. Looking at Chesapeake 60.
All right, beautiful people. All right. Mom, shalom, shalom. Okay, I'll get this together for y'all. All right, it is Thursday. Happy Thursday, everybody. It is May. Oh my gosh, we're almost in June. It is May the 26th, 2022. Day 118 of year 4 of reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets, and of the 4-year consecutive day count, day 1136. Today we're picking up on page, I gotta see the page. I put the last page, but I know we ended the book. I'm about to say the wrong page number. On page 122, the book of Osiris. And then we're going to pick up in the meditation book on page 154. All right, let's get started. Father, you know who it is. We're ready for another day, searching for truth, and we thank you that we find it as we journey. All right, y'all. Alicia, ya salama. Belinda Brown, shalom, shalom. Trina, that's Wabu. Hey, girls, hey. Okay, y'all. Shayla G. Shalom, Betwabu, great rising. Okay, y'all. Page 122. Up at the top. Book of Osiris. Osiris is spelled O-S-I-R-I-S. Book of Osiris, son of Jehovah. You okay? To that said, wait a minute. Like you just open your eyes. Take a few minutes to actually blink and breathe, sis. Go on back over there. Go. Babe, call her over there with you. Go on, sis. I just hit record. Go ahead. You get some when I'm done. Okay. Book of Osiris, son of Jehovah, god of Lotson, an Etherian world in the ark of Seing. We'll just say Sing. Known in the high heavens as Osiris, son of Jehovah. Don't sit on my bed with that. Sit in that chair. The remote over here if you want to turn. Okay, chapter 1. Now came Osiris, son of Jehovah, to him on his throne in Lotson, an ethereal world, where his reign 100,000 years had illumined many a corporal star. Came the voice, great Jehovah, spirit over all, saying, Osiris, Osiris, my son, forth from these immortal worlds, and grasp the perishable earth in its debauched flight, and proclaim with uplifted rod, thyself the one, the commanding God. As an indulgent father treads softly by his infant son, guiding him tenderly with wholesome advice, so have I, through my gods and chiefs, the red star coaxed along for many, many thousands of years. But as a wise father turneth to his traught son of latter years, commanding, thou shalt or thou shalt not, so do I through thee, my son, my godly son, stretch my hand over the earth and her heavens. Buried deep she lieth in anarchy, and by false gods and false lords in war, despoiling her heavens, and casting down on the troubled earth her millions of spirits of darkness, glutting themselves in crime. I mean, the earth must be like that the problem child. Clearly, it's only talking about this. I'm sure the other worlds probably went through something similar, but it seemed like the earth has been the topic of all conversation for quite some time. Deep buried, she lieth in anarchy, and by false gods and false lords in war, despoiling her heavens and casting down on the troubled earth her millions of spirits of darkness, glutting themselves in crime. As driftwood on a surging sea, now riseth high on towering waves, and quickly plungeth down in the roaring waters, to rise and fall and repeat forever the ceaseless struggle, so do the spirits of the dead of earth rise in heaven, to be plunged back again in unending toil and darkness on the low earth, where toil and struggle, my most holy God and his lords, powerless to divert the terrible heedlessness of men and angels. Osiris heard Jehovah's voice and summoned swift messengers, well trained in the rise and fall of worlds, and bade them to go to the red star, the earth, in masterly speed, 1,000,000 strong, and survey the affairs of mortals and spirits, and quickly report back to Jehovah's throne in Lotson, promising succor to God and his lords of earth. The swift messengers, with an arrow ship, such as God's, for speed and light work, used to accomplish Jehovah's will, shot forth through the Gibeon fields of darkness, midway between the serpent's coils, where were soon deep hidden in the whirling atmosphere of the warring earth. Meantime, Osiris called to council about Jehovah's throne, long risen gods and goddesses, and told the voices words that stirred his soul with compassion for those but recently quickened to life by the Creator's breath, who persisted in burrowing their souls down in Hada, heedless of the call and persuasion of loving. I'm sorry, let me go back. That's a long sentence. Osiris called to council about Jehovah's throne, long risen gods and goddesses, and told them the voices words that stirred his soul with compassion for those but recently quickened to life by the Creator's breath, who persisted in burrowing their souls down in Hada, heedless of the call and persuasion of a loving God and Lords. Jehovah's light overspread the Lotson throne of Osiris, and curtained round the stars, the gods and goddesses, with the full history of the earth and her heavens, so that all were clear to comprehend his almighty wisdom. Yet not one was moved with haste to answer, for scenes like these were their daily deliberation concerning the countless millions of stars dotting the firmament. So I guess we're not the only one acting crazy out here. And then slowly, one at a time, the speakers, each a representative of 1,000 gods and goddesses, gave utterance to Jehovah's light from their respective seats. And when the multitude had spoken, and Osiris, charged with the wisdom of all, perceived from human souls how the light matched his own, as to him Jehovah spake, his first sphere of commandant God stood plain before him. And then he rose up and stood in the throne of Jehovah, mantled in white, like one new illumined with a great change in his long life's administration. To gods and goddesses he spake, give ear, for now the veil of the ark of seeing uprises before our hallowed shrine, as step by step all things advanced by Jehovah's will. A new roadways in Etheria open up fields unexplored by traveling stars. So onward, step by step, our own endless realm takes the course of manhood in its giant strides. But you have the worlds of Corpor and S, by you have the worlds of Corpor and S been blessed for hundreds of thousands of years. Your busy scenes in an old routine change now to higher advent and an Orion arc cometh anon. As an oscillating star feedeth itself with a change of seasons, so hath Jehovah coursed the wave of his traveling serpents to give our Etherean realms an endless life, diversified by change of scenes and constant surprises, the glory of the soul. As thus Osiris, the mighty, with a soul full of words engraved by Jehovah's hand, discoursed on the glories awaiting the high worlds, where he and his brother gods and archangels dwelt in the all-perfect. There came back, hastening as with omnipotence impelled, the swift messengers from the slow earth with their Etherean arrow ship shooting like a meteor on fire. Then came Hagan, spokesman of the messengers, before Jehovah's throne, his mantle turned back and his eyes radiant with sure knowledge, saluting in Jehovah's sign and name. He said, Osiris, Jehovah's son. And before Osiris has reference number 1, which down at the bottom, it has added O. So the reference says, O Osiris, Jehovah's son. And up here in verse 11, it took away the O and it just says Osiris. Osiris, Jehovah's son, and ye gods and goddesses, as the all-light gave voice to our far-seeing God of Lotson, so stand I here to corroborate in Jehovah's name. The day of sweet persuasion to the earthborn, and their countless angels down in darkness is done. Lo, the race, the gone, planned by Jehovah from the foundation of the world, now standeth triumphant on the earth. As Jehovah led the Ehims in paths fortuitous by gentle words and love, but left them not strong before the warring elements, so hath he created upon the earth the masters who shall subdue it to the triumph of gods. Not like lambs are the gods, but lions untamed, born conquerors, with seed to learn and reason toward all things, faith in mastery, but not faith in Jehovah. Let me read that again. Not like lambs are the gods, but lions untamed, born conquerors, with seed to learn and reason toward all things, faith in mastery, but not faith in Jehovah. As a man having 2 sons, the one low-strung and passionless, the other in ceaseless mischief and desire for havoc because of the fullness within, so stand twain, the Ehims and the Gons on the earth. And when they die and enter heaven, the first, the Ehims, go like lambs as they are directed, but the second, the Gons, still full of inherent stubbornness and self-will, unheed the gods and lords and mock them. That sound like us today, right? Uncle JB, Grand Rising, Jen, Grand Rising. And when they die and enter heaven, the first, the Ehims, go like lambs as they are directed. But the second, the Gons, still full of inherent stubbornness and self-will, unheed the gods and lords and mock at them. Back to the earth, these well-formed and stately souls come and set up heavenly kingdoms of their own in darkness, and fain pursue with most restless. Let me go back. Back to the earth, these well-formed and stately souls come and set up heavenly kingdoms of their own in darkness, and fain pursue with most relentless zeal their former enemies. By their loud clamor and inspiring acts, they break up the weak Lord's kingdom and despoil them of subjects, proclaiming heaven and earth free to all, whereby even hapless souls in the lower heaven have been persuaded to fly from the hospitals and nurseries back to mortals, and they are fastening themselves as fetals, shutting up their eyes against all further light. So mortals have given themselves up to doing the wills of the spirits of darkness, making spoil and desolation a holiday. We then came to God, Jehovah's Son, whose throne lieth in Gal, and he said, take this message to Osiris, Jehovah's Son, God of Lotson, greeting in the Father's name. Behold, the ark of Sin is at hand. Send thou, O God, a ship and deliver my host, 4,000 million. With that and in due salutation, we hasten hither. Holy, I need some water. My mouth is just dry. Francis, shalom. Oh, my goodness. I feel like I'm struggling to speak. I used some of that brown Listerine before I started. I normally use the blue one, but I got some brown because I ain't had it in a while. Oh, and it feel like it just dried my entire mouth out. Okay. Oh, great spirit, peace and blessings to you. Love and light to those families in Texas. Amen. All right, y'all. Chapter 2. Osiris said, in the name of the All-Light, I will have 50 millions of conquerors to do my will on earth and in heaven. But first, send ye an Elim with suitable attendants to deliver God, his lords and their hosts, the brides and bridegrooms of Jehovah, and leave ye the earth in darkness 30 days. Meantime, let my builders provide me a ship for my host, and let the heralds go abroad and sing, announcing this, my decree. Jehovah said, think not, O man, I gave talents to men differently on earth, and there to end, making my exalted places to be even shorn and alike. Not so created I man, but as one on earth is mild, and leadeth on by smooth words and persuasive behavior, and as another, by quick perceiving and strong will, plungeth in headlong, even so carry I them onward in my high heavens, perfecting them in their bent, but with wisdom and love, till each becometh as a son in his sphere. So he said, it don't matter. He said, if they warm hearted when they go in, they're gonna be warm hearted when they come out. If they hard headed going in, they most likely gonna be hard headed coming out. He said, but even in that, I still guide them in my love and light and warmth and kind words until we get them to shining as full sons. Let's see. I'll read it again, verse 2. Jehovah said, think not, O man, I gave talents to men differently on earth, and there to end, making my exalted places to be even shorn and alike. Not so created I man, but as one on earth is mild, and leadeth on by smooth words and persuasive behavior, and as another, by quick perceiving and strong will, plungeth in headlong, even so I carry them onward in my high heavens, perfecting them in their bent, B-E-N-T, meaning like how you grew up, you're bent in a certain direction where you're taught growing up. So if you, if you have a certain behavior, that means as you were growing up, you were bent in that direction. So that's what it means by in their bent, right? Some people are bent towards righteousness and some people are bent towards wickedness, right? What is your bend? That's a long sentence. Not so created I man, but as one on earth is mild, and leadeth on by smooth words and persuasive behavior, and as another, by quick perceiving and strong will, plungeth in headlong, even so carry I them onward in my high heavens, perfecting them in their bent, but with wisdom and love, till each becometh as a son in his sphere. Fear not, O man, that I have not labored for them in high heaven. I have worlds to be nurtured and coaxed at times, worlds to be pruned at times, and commanded by most severe authority, made to know that all power lieth in me, through my gods and lords. For these exalted extreme gods, I have places. For these exalted extreme gods, I have places in the firmament, and worlds numberless, whereon they dwell as stars in my heavens. Thither make I roadways for my traveling corporal worlds, where lie my ethereal fields of pasture, to glorify me and lead on the mortal born. So now to my commanding God, Osiris, who ruled in Lotzen most amiably, with equals, but was high-strung with impatience toward self-willed ignorance. I brought the undisciplined earth to feel his giant power. Oh, yeah, we got to bring in somebody to know how to crack down a whip, right? Oh, we got some hard heads over here. We need somebody strong. This ain't for the faint of heart over here. Boy, earth is a tool, ain't we? Listen, I'm gonna read that again. For these exalted extreme gods, which Osiris was, for these exalted extreme gods, I have places in the firmament and worlds numberless, whereon they dwell as stars in my heavens. Thither I make roadways for my traveling corporal worlds, where lie my ethereal fields of pasture, to glorify me and lead on the mortal born. So now to my commanding God, Osiris, who ruled in Lotzen most amiably, with equals, but was high-strung with impatience toward self-willed ignorance, I brought the undisciplined earth to feel his giant power. Saya, scribe of Katarin, thus described the scene. Osiris had spoken his word and gone forth. Heaven was stirred up. Gods and goddesses knew that the work was on hand. First of all, when dude said, go ahead, let's hold a graduation, let's get all the gods and lords and the brides and bridegrooms up out of there and leave the earth in darkness for 30 days. When he said that, we should have known it just got real. Leave them in darkness for 30 days before I come. The earth had sons. Let me go back. Heaven was stirred up. Gods and goddesses knew that work was on hand, knew of its order in this place in the firmament. The earth had sons at last, worthy the will and service of gods. Osiris, impetuous and much loved god of Lotzen, was going to visit these earth sons and wash them clean and put jackets on them, right? Sometimes you got like that hard mama or that hard father, maybe even a hard big mama, grandma, whatever, right? Or nobody, or auntie, somebody. You know not to cross them, but you know they'll give you they'd give you the shirt off their back, but they don't play no games with you. Get them kids in here and get them fed. Come on in here. Take them out. No, absolutely not. But they will go to war for you, right? It seemed like Osiris. The earth had sons at last, worthy the will and service of gods. Osiris, impetuous and much loved god of Lotzen, was going to visit these earth sons and wash them clean and put jackets on them. Osiris said, in written words will I set down explicit laws for these unruly false gods, the Gons, and give them bondage, like the people of other worlds. Oh, that they had discipline before instead of sweet persuasion, right? Sometimes, remind me of my husband. He said, sometimes you got to talk to these dudes like they from the streets, like, right? And they need to, I ain't giving them no sweet talk, right? He said in other words, I'm just kind of summing it up. Some people you can get to move on and they can roll with sweet words of persuasion. But some people you got to treat them just like like you in the middle of the streets and give it to them just like that, because they're hard heads. They just won't listen any other way. They're not even going to hear soft words. They're not soft at all. So you need to come to them how they are. Oh, this is how you hear? Okay, let me change it up for you real quick. Osiris said, in written words Will I set down explicit laws for these unruly false gods, the Gons, and give them bondage, like the other people of other worlds, that they had discipline before instead of sweet persuasion? Saya said, when some gods give command, the people move along. But when Osiris decreed, the whole heaven of Lotson ran. Oh, shoot, here come Daddy. Everybody, go. Just go. No questions. Just go. Saya said, when some gods give command, the people move along. But when Osiris decreed, the whole heaven of Lotson ran. And quickly, now the mandates were filled. The ships were built. First, the Eline, commanded by Yak and equipped with 5 million souls, and started off in hot haste to the earth to deliver God and his lords, and such brides and bridegrooms as were prepared for the resurrection. Next, the ship, Bower, and Adavasit, built for Osiris and his host, 50 million strong. Osiris said that no adventure run foul. Let swift messengers be stationed along the roadways, and they shall announce the proceedings of my gods and lords and their whereabouts. And even so was the order of heaven executed. And time came and passed, and the earth was stripped from her gods and lords, and on her heavens darkness reigned. Then Osiris left his high place, and with his host, aboard the Ethereal ship of fire, set out toward the earth at breakneck speed, for such was the disposition of this most determined God. Nor halted he at Chinvat, the boundary of the earth's vortex, but sped on with banners and curtains flying, and most martial music to stir up the souls of his host to sudden tittle. Boy, he ain't playing no games, man. Down he came to the earth with his fire ship, and sped round about it to learn its weak and salient points, and next rose up a little to view the atmosphere and spirits who had presumed defiance toward high heaven, in the place where Gal had been, whose God, a most holy one, had learned to rule by love for 800 years, and was unappreciated by the crude boasters, the unlearned Druge. There stood now castles and mansions of the false god Utea, round whom a million sentinels armed for battle were stationed to protect him, the false, and do his will. Hither came Osiris, and over the battlements raised his ships, and boarded even into the arena of the council of Hada. Then halting, bade his marshals proclaim his voice, "Come forth, O Utia, behold my power. Thy sentinels stand appalled. I raise my host by higher law, and stand on my feet in thy citadel." Utia said, strange and audacious God, from what unmannerly region hast thou sprung? Apparently, he hasn't heard of Osiris. Like, how dare you even open your mouth? Utia said, strange and audacious God, from what unmannerly region hast thou sprung? Know thou gods should kneel outside my walls and beg to know my will for an audience? Then Osiris, determined to hear his arguments, and thus spake, from great Jehovah I am come. I kneel to none save him. Boy, you better... Look, okay. From great Jehovah I am come. I kneel to none save him. To do his will in reverence am I come in power and majesty. But erst I demolish thy pitiful walls, and cast thee down, suppliant to do my will. Tell me wherein excuseth thou thyself to turn from the exalted heavens, and build here a kingdom of slaves for thy own glory? Utia said, O thou jester. He called him a jester. Utia said, O thou jester, erst I demolished thee and thy ship, and enslave thy host as mine. I will then pacify thy worthless curiosity, that thou mayest hereafter know thy lesson well. But first, Thou hast mocked me for my slave. What more are thy hosts? Hast thou not tampered with their too willing love by stories of thy unseen Jehovah, and persuaded them to suffer thee to lead them on to glory? Now I declare before thee, there is no Jehovah, no all person. Hence thy philosophy is founded on falsehood. The space is before us, the worlds are before us, there is nothing more. Let him who will assume a kingdom, let him who will be a slave be a slave. I am Apollo. No, you're not, my G. You stole his name. We know who Apollo is. Apollo had these same unruly folk under his command, to where at the last part of his ruling, if we remember correctly, at the last part of his ruling, no, there was no graduation. Hold on. Yeah, because we just read through Apollo, right? He had these same shenaniganizers he had to deal with. Hold on. Matter of fact, I think I underlined it. Yeah, the town Kapakukawatcha, right? On page 109. Listen, so there was no deliverance for the last day of Apollo's cycle, and Jehovah received no harvest. Thus ended the cycle of Apollo, being 2,800 years. All these same regents, I'll call them these same regents, and that's a word spelled backwards, right? All these same regents was acting a fool under Apollo. Apollo trying to lead them and guide them and giving them right information and stuff. We're gonna do what we want to do, my G, right? So y'all see how this ended up. Apollo, if you can't act like Osiris out here towards the end, we need to go ahead and end your reign, and we need to bring in one of the meaner gods to whip them in shape. Sometimes you can't just talk to the kids. You got to beat their tail. I mean, that sounds horrible. I don't like, y'all get it, right? You just got to exercise some strict discipline, some tough love. Adri Shalom. Okay, listen. Hold on, let me go back. I go back to where he said there is no Jehovah, which we know that's not true. Now I declare before thee, there is no Jehovah, no all person. Hence thy philosophy is founded on falsehood. The space is before us, the worlds are before us, there is nothing more. Let him who will assume a kingdom, let him who will be a slave be a slave. I am Apollo. Osiris said, when I shall have cast thee down, thou mightest say it was merely because it so happened that one was stronger than another. So then, that thou mayest remember my words are more in wisdom than in blind force, hear me whilst thou canst, for it is not long that I can talk to such as thou. He said, listen, I'm going to give you one chance, just so you can remember that I ain't here just to show you my mere force, right? Everything I do, I have already calculated, and everything is done in wisdom. So hear me now while you can. So then, that thou mayest remember my words are more in wisdom than in blind force, hear me whilst thou canst. For it is not long that I can talk to such as thou. He who admitteth the universe moveth in harmony and discipline, already admitted the all-person, Jehovah. He who denieth the all-person, Jehovah, denieth unity in all things. If all things are not in unity, then all things divided, one against another. Whoever holdeth this is a disintegrator, and whoever holdeth that all things are a unit is a unitor. Wherefore, if there be greater strength in unison than in isolation, then therein hath unison won the battle and become the all-person. Touching the matter of slaves. And another thing, let's talk about these slaves. Touching the matter of slaves. There is but one master, and he ruleth over all. But it lieth in the power of each and every soul to attune himself with the all-person, which is freedom. Of such are my hosts. Thy slaves attune themselves to thee. They cannot rise higher than thou. My hosts have the universe for their model. Boom. Levon, I gotta read that again. Touching the matter of slaves, there is but one master, and he ruleth over all. But it lieth in the power of each and every soul to attune himself with the all person, which is freedom. Of such are my hosts. Thy slaves attune themselves to thee. They cannot rise higher than thou. My hosts have the universe for their model. Because thou canst not find the cause of thy coming into life, why not say thou a name, I will call him, and it shall be Jehovah. And now began Utiah with a long discourse, the which Osiris waited not to hear, but turned to his marshal, saying, Break ye down the walls of Gal, and raise me 10,000 pillars of fire. I will here rebuild Jehovah's kingdom. Let the Osiris chant, All hail to Osiris, God of heaven and earth. To which the astonished Utiah stood silently. To which the astonished Utiah stood silently, as if to know if it were real, or but a frenzied dream. To anyone should so unrecognize his power, now well established for 300 years. He like, this dude ain't moving. Like, I've been here for 300 years and he ain't. Hold on, am I woke? Wait, is this really real? Because all should have beat and fled from me by now, right? He had to pause, like, wait a minute. Why this dude ain't gone? He said, while he was talking, he turned his back on him. Raise up pillars, fire. Let's get going. Out of the ship came the host, and without command or waiting to know their parts, but everyone in time to the music taking place in the citadel, Osiris strode forward, and by the majesty of his power, overturned the throne of Utiah, the false god, and heaped the rubbish aside. Then stretching forth his hand, he said, In thy name, O Jehovah, and by virtue of thy power, in me vested, do I here command the elements to do my will, and raise me a throne worthy of thy immortal Son. And with his voice, his host in concert quickly piled the adamantine seat, and hung it round with transparent tapestry woven with the elements of silver and gold, while the laborers of Osiris overturned the walls of Utiah's city and set free his millions of slaves, even whilst Utiah's officers, panic-stricken, dropped on their knees, pleading for pity, or fled precipitously off to the earth. And Utiah, conjecturing the worthlessness of his stuff compared to that which descended from the higher heavens, shouted and called in vain to his most steadfast zealots in time of peace and easy rule, beholding them in thousands vanquished without even a cruel deed or word. Not long the fray lasted, for Osiris' work was as if a man were Not long the fray lasted, for Osiris' work was as if a man were overturning the toys of a child, and Utiah, to prove his faith in himself, stood sole spectator, unmoved from his tracks, but helpless, wondering what should come next. But now Osiris, with no words of explanation or excuse, ascended the new throne and gave the sign in Jehovah's name, which was answered by his mighty host, when behold, from the vault of heaven above there descended mantles of light, matchless in brilliancy. Utiah was himself illumined, and all his former evil deeds and cruel, I'm getting tongue tied. Hold on. Yeah, my mouth is super dry. Hold on. Okay. Utiah was himself illumined, and all his former evil deeds and cruelty stood out in huge black spots, quailing before the sea of light. For round on every side stood millions of souls, all pure and transparent, wash not all evil or short in, hold on. I skipped the whole sentence. I'm sorry, y'all. Hold on. For round on every side stood millions of souls, all pure and transparent, washed by the ordeal of time and holy works. But Uzziah was not all evil or short in owning an honorable adversary. And so, quickly comprehending his awful plight in the midst of purity, first let fall a tear, the which in pity blinded him from witnessing further his dire humiliation. And next, with blubbering of a beaten schoolboy, he cried out, Enough, enough, thou God Almighty, take me hence from thy dissolving fire. I was but wont to witness some great God's deeds, to find proof of my own worthlessness. But Osiris was not new to such a situation and proceeded with the affairs of heaven. Boy, your tears ain't moving me. I do this every day. Keep the party rolling. You stand right there. We got something else for you. But Osiris was not new to such a situation and proceeded with the affairs of heaven, appointing officers and laborers and apportioning his high council to do Jehovah's will, and so left Uzziah to sweat a while in his own torments. Oh, give me relief, cried Uzziah, thou God of heaven and earth. I consume, I burn in purity's flame. For pity, turn down the consuming light. Osiris halted from his labor long enough to answer thus, All light cannot cease for convenience of one man. Clothe thyself, O false one, with robes of darkness and hide thy cruel butcheries. Let me read that again. Just imagine, you know how people get into it here, and for lack of a better and for lack of a better and fluent vocabulary to read somebody's mail, right? They just start getting into curse words and stuff. Like, man, come on. This the kind of talking to and read people's mail. If we did this today, like people, like what could you say? Listen, he said, turn down thy consuming light. Osiris halted from his labors long enough to answer thus, All light cannot cease for convenience of one man. Clothe thyself, O false one, with robes of darkness, and hide thy cruel butcheries. Thou that wouldst have made slaves of my host should be of holier metal than to plead for help. Behold, not one of thy slaves have I taken or asked to bow in obedience. To the righteous, the worlds are free. Only evil men and evil gods quail before Jehovah's ceaseless fire. Oh, that's how you do it. Meanwhile, Uzziah hustled close around himself his glittering robes and pulled his flashing crown down over his scalded eyes, which worthless fabric but fed the fury of the all-light from the throne of God, Osiris' resting place. The slaves of Uzziah had fled or lay piteously prostrate, speechless with fear and wonder. Over these the host of Osiris watched and hastily took them beyond the now rapidly rising pillars of fire where they were housed temporarily. Still the voice of Osiris rang loud for help and pity, but none came to him. Then he saw that the prostrate victims fared better and were less conspicuous, so Osiris cast himself prostrate along with the rubbish of his former throne. Whereupon Osiris sent Yesta, sister of Adonis, goddess of OAHSPE, in Ethera to rescue him and mantle him around with balm from the upper heavens. So Yesta and her band took Osiris hence, far beyond the boundaries of the new laid gal. Where we at? 44 minutes. Oh man, I wanted to read the next chapter. We're gonna pause. Let's not pause. Let's go ahead. Let's read chapter 3. And if we got time left to get to the meditation book today, we will. But let's just keep going. chapter 3, at the top, page 129. Osiris spake from the throne, saying, proclaim it in the east and west and north and south, there is a God in heaven. That which has transpired in Gal, go tell the false gods and false lords in Hada, adding, Osiris have come. Messengers started forth from every quarter of the world, inspired by the impetuous utterances of the commanding God, and so, half breathless and in hastening speed, these young gods and young goddesses, the messengers, dropped in upon the lordly defamers of holiness and told the tale of the overturned Gal where proud Utaya fell. Let me make a mention of something real quick. Okay, so I'm talking about now here in our current world. On YouTube, and not just on you, they're more than just on YouTube. They're like real people everywhere, but they have their audience on YouTube and other social media, right? But you notice some of them who call themselves spiritual, now it's easy, now that I have some of the understanding of what the OAHSPE teaches you, you can see, you can literally point out, there's a good handful of them that I can point out to whom I knew were spiritual people, but I'm like, man, just the anger in them is just, you don't really accomplish much with the anger. Now, there's righteous indignation, right? And a whole righteous indignation, like Osiris is like the perfect example of a righteous indignation, right? He ain't go off cursing you out with filthy words and all this other stuff, but he just read your mail like, this is how it's going to be done, right? And at all times, giving all praise and honor to the one creator. He said, your people latch onto you. He said, my people, they have the whole universe. They attach themselves to the all light, the great creator. And so their boundaries are universal. Yours just attached to you, so they can't go any higher than you. My followers, those who come with me, who roll with me, the entire universe is at their disposal, right? So I noticed some of the people, and I look at them on, some of the videos I can't get through, but some of them I do watch because sometimes they run into some information or they share some information that I had been looking into. So I'm just kind of curious. So you call it nosy. So I'm just pulling information from where I can just to help put this piece of the puzzle together. But I noticed a lot of them, and one in particular, I'm more leaning to the side that the they say God, ancestors, whatever they want to use. At this point, I'm truly believing, because of the way they talk about everything and how they gather this band of followers around them, it almost seems like that they're walking in step with information that they're getting from false gods and false lords that are still currently ruling, or if you want to call it ruling, but they still are very active here, right? So some of them, you can see that you might be getting your information from the false gods and false lords, because the great creator, he moves a little differently. His discipline looks a little bit differently. At every which turn, you getting yourself in trouble, going to jail. When shouldn't the great creator let you know of certain things ahead of time? Like you constantly is fighting, say there's a war coming and all this stuff. Something is always wrong. Something always just seems wrong about that to me, right? So you can see this even today. And some of y'all may know who, well, shucks, it's a few people. So you may not know exactly who I'm talking about, but there's a good bit of them. And this one particular person who has a huge following has amassed in himself other YouTubers who are resharing his stuff and they're following him. I'm like, man, y'all, it's looking to me, and my understanding as of today, that they are actually being led by false gods and false lords, because it's like, we're ready to go to war. I'm like, look, you'll be warring against yourself. Aren't we all one? Right? You know, so all these things I just thought about this. Okay, back to the reading. Osiris spake from the throne, saying, proclaim it in the east and the west and the north and the south, that there is a God in heaven. That which has transpired in Gal, go tell the false gods and false lords in Hada, adding, Osiris hath come. Larat Shalom. Try cutting it off. Oh, you probably can't hear me. She said her internet is not working properly. It's freezing and she just can't hear. Close it and open it back up. If you can read my lips. I don't know. Or hop over to YouTube. See which one's working better. Okay. All right. Messengers started forth for every quarter of the world, inspired by the impetuous utterances of the commanding God. And so, half breathless and in hastening speed, these young gods and young goddesses, the messengers, dropped in upon the lordly defamers of holiness and told the tale of the overturned Gal where proud Utiah fell. And they, in manner and custom, inspired the false rulers to imagine even a worse calamity, and that much had been concealed out of the deference to Uzziah and other usurpers. Osiris called his council and appointed new places with new officers, having nothing in common with all past administrations of gods of earth and heaven. So far, these appointments were from his Etherian host and moved by the fire of his own energy, quickly assumed their most honorable duties. Like when new management comes, we ain't keeping nobody. You go find another job. We got our own crew that we bring in here. Or you bring in an outside audit unit to audit your books. We don't need your services. We got our own crew. Step aside, please. Janie of Yah Grand Rising. This is what they did. We ain't using none of y'all. Thank you for your services. Osiris called his council and appointed new places with new officers, having nothing in common with all past administrations of the gods of earth and heaven. So far, these appointments were from his Etherian host and moved by the fire of his own energy, quickly assumed their most honorable duties, some to build, some to survey and lay the course of streets and places of habitations, and yet others to remove the old hospitals and nurseries to make way for new ones, and for factories and all requisites for the millions of souls now scattered and lost, or in dire confusion, struggling in the outside darkness, whence arose a constant wail of fear and torment, strangely wild compared to the glorious light fast spreading from the rising pillars of fire about the throne of God. Osiris' hosts, 50 millions, attuned to harmony and precision, were proceeding fast with their labor. Not one, but knew his part and played close to the text in every motion, were yet in number as nothing compared to the 1,000 millions scattered in the gloomy darkness welling beyond the walls. Here, O road, Osiris would speak, or with his hand command an otivan to those hapless slaves, and as if his hosts, his thoughts had fashioned, his Etherian men rushed to make his will omnipotent. No loss of time or space to inquire how the matter should be done. For heaven's trained workmen have learned the power of concentrated effort and the power of knowledge braced to a single point by which the elements stoop to do their wills. Teach me. Feel like Dr. Strange before he became Dr. Strange. Like fall to my knees like, teach me. Listen, let me read this again. This is so good, y'all. Here a road, Osiris would speak, or with his hand command, an otivan to those hapless slaves, and as if his host, his thoughts had fashioned, his Etherian men rushed to make his will omnipotent. No loss of time or space to inquire how the matter should be done. For heaven's trained workmen have learned the power of concentrated effort and the power of knowledge braced to a single point by which the elements stoop to do their wills. To learn this simple harmony, for all has to be as one, what countless millions rise up from the earth to be hurled back, discordant and powerless before Jehovah's sons and daughters. Top of the day, Mr. Isaiah. Go on over there, son.
What are we
Boy, Josh just ain't even got delivered yet. Go on over there and have a seat. Where we at? 55 minutes. I'm gonna finish this chapter, y'all. Listen.
Josh's Pro Controller comes at 10.
Okay, all right, thank you. I'll check into it, son. Have a seat. Okay. To learn this simple harmony for all has to be as one. What countless millions rise up from the earth to be hurled back, discordant and powerless before Jehovah's sons and daughters. Yea, and kings and queens and potentates, high-strung in unwarranted conceit, cast down to beg, beseechingly as a child. As a furious lion is tamed, worthless, his giant power in the hands of man, whose strength by knowledge triumphs. So the Etherians from high heaven descend to humiliate first, and then to teach the false gods and false lords of Hada. Jehovah saith, what more, O man, have I put upon thee than to learn, and strewn thy path with lessons rich in happiness, to learn the elements and master them, that it is to be a god or goddess. Let me read that again, just in case we did it though. Jehovah saith, what more, O man, have I put upon thee than to learn? Don't y'all hear me say all the time, earth is a school, it's a lab, like we supposed to be learning. That's why we come here. We got to graduate. Like some people is caught in the everlasting high school. Like, dude, I graduated like 10 years ago. Why are you still here? Like, what are you doing? Like, you're disrupting everybody's class now. You need to go to remedial. We're going to take you out of the public school, and we're going to put you over here in this school off to the side for the bad kids. Or let's not call you bad. You just need a little bit of remediation, and you can't get that here, right? Because these going through the first time. We don't need you screwing with them the first time through messing them up. We're going to put you over here for everybody that don't learn their lesson the first or second, or possibly even the third time, right? All right. Jehovah saith, what more, O man, have I put upon thee than to learn, and strewn thy path with lessons rich in happiness, to learn the elements and master them, that it is to be a god or goddess. That's what it means to be a god or goddess, right? Listen. And wherein one man is weak, let two or more unite, a simple thing by which even the stars of heaven can be turned from their course. Jehovah saith, have I not said, the weakest king is he who hath the weakest king is he who hath the most soldiers, and the strongest nation where none are required? How then may the false gods by evil deeds fortify their thrones? Lo, my Etherian hosts come unarmed, and by a breath blow away their mighty kingdoms. And so it was in Gal. Only one earth day had come and gone since Utel reigned over 100 million slaves, who daily brought tribute up from the earth to ornament his crown-like city. And now the dawn of another world stood supreme in the demolished kingdom. What greater pity, most pitiful sight, than to see the former slaves still loyal to their deposed master, Utiah, coming to him in his banishment, 50 million swearing terrible oaths of fidelity to him forever. For of such like the Great Spirit created man, to even wed himself to mischief, for zeal and ignorance, to prove a most foolish love. Listen, let me read that again. For of such like the Great Spirit created man, to even wed himself to mischief, for zeal and ignorance, to prove a most foolish love. And but for Utiah's guardians, his very slaves had smothered him in desperate effort to manifest fidelity. Then spake Yester to him, saying, raise thy voice against this unseemly crowd, and be commander still, at least to save thyself. Remember how Jehovah giveth this lesson to mortals, to say to evil, away. For lo, to suffer first one, and then another, to fasten upon one's self, is crime great as a debauched passion unchecked. Bid them be gone, for love of self, which is thy gift from great Jehovah. Be thou thyself, it will better them also. Utiah struggling, said, Alas, fair angel, these were my slaves. And remember, because Utiah, he took on the title Apollo. He told them that I'm Apollo, right? Yesa said, man, be yourself so these people can get free. When you become yourself, you're going to help them too. You're going to help them get free. Stop trying to be somebody you're not. Utiah struggling said, Alas, my fair angel, these were my slaves. The hardest blow of all is their acknowledged love. The fire of the throne of Osiris was tamed to this. The fire of the throne of Osiris was tamed to this. For hundreds of years I gave these creatures pangs and wretchedness, and now they give me love. Poor idiots, I cannot drive them thence. And so, sobbing, bowed Utiah his head, for such sudden great truths turned all his judgment into the darkness of his past deeds and wickedness, even whilst crowding close on every side. The 50 million kept up their ceaseless assurances of endless love. That's horrible. But, oh my gosh, imagine the torture he was going through. Understanding how wicked and wretched he had been, and gathered this host of loyal people to follow him in his wickedness. And now he realized the damage he's done. He said he showed nothing but darkness and wretchedness to them, and they are showing him unceaseless love. Like, in his state of understanding what he's done, all these people that he's led astray is still like, man, we're with you. Whatever you say, we're going to do. What you want, we here. Like, they're not turning away, right? He said the flame of Osiris was tame compared to this. Remember, he was burning up, like, turn it down. Osiris came with listen, my G, with no cussing, just read his mail. He said that was tame compared to what he had done. The love he had heaped up in deception from all these people. He can't deal with it. I'm just like, bruh, listen to this. Utiah, hold on, let me just go back. Let me listen to what Yester said again. Verse 11. Then spake Yester to him, saying, Raise thy voice against this unseeming crowd, and be commander still, at least to save thyself. Remember how Jehovah giveth this lesson to mortals, to say to evil, Away, for lo, to suffer first one, and then another, to fasten upon oneself, is crime great as a debauched passion unchecked. Bid them be gone, for love of self, which is thy gift from great Jehovah. Be thou thyself, it will better them also. Utiah, struggling, said, Alas, fair angel, these were my slaves. The hardest blow of all is their acknowledged love. The fire of the throne of Osiris was tamed to this. For hundreds of years I gave these creatures pangs and wretchedness, and now they give me love. Poor idiots, I cannot drive them hence. And so, sobbing, bowed Utiah his head, for such sudden great truths turned all his judgment into the darkness of his past deeds and wickedness, even whilst crowding close on every side. The 50 million kept up their ceaseless assurances of endless love, nor was there any way to open to flight from their ignorant jargon and foul breath. So when Yester saw how helplessly Utiah had given up, she raised her hand, saying, What shall I do, O Jehovah? Wow. Whereat the light descended, and Jehovah spake through Yester, saying, Flesh of my flesh created I man. From mine own spirit gave I man a spirit also. And unto all men alike gave I all things in my worlds. But some men are not content with what I gave, but ask for more, even that they may have their fellows for subjects. To these I have given in answer to their prayers. Behold, thou, when, O man, why seekest thou to put away today even what a day since thou didst pray for? They are as good today as yesterday. He said, now you want to put away what you asked me for. You asked me for it and I gave it to you. Now you want to put it away? Is it not as good as it was? Is it not as good today as it was yesterday? Thou hast said, man can make himself whatsoever he will, so thy creator is worthless to thee. Love is the lightest of all burdens. If thou desirest not to carry their love, how didst thou carry their hate so long? Love is the lightest of all burdens. If thou desirest not to carry their love, how didst thou carry their hate so long? Nevertheless, if thou desirest, thou canst put them away. They are thine. Do as thou wilt. Uzziah said, how can I put them away? I cannot reason with 50 millions. Nay, before I persuaded a score, the first ones, so ignorant, would forget what I said. Tell me, then, thou goddess, what shall I do to free myself from this great multitude? Yester said, call not on me, but on thy creator. And Yester said, call not on me, but on thy creator, and not to be freed for thy own good, but for wisdom to do some good unto them over whom thou hast long been a remorseless tyrant. These are a small curse to thee compared to thine own judgment, for from thyself thou canst never flee. Thou shalt undo thy selfish deeds, which thou hast practiced so long. So turn thou at once and make oath to him who made thee, that from this time forth thou wilt do good unto others with all thy wisdom and strength. And look, we learned that, right? Look, that's one of the first things we learned coming out the church house, because the church house, it's not to get on anybody that's still not as far as we are yet. Because the church teaches you rapture coming, Jesus coming to get you. And so people got this mindset, give up all responsibility. I can't wait. This world about to be burnt up. All the wickedness is going down the flames, and we're going to be partying up in heaven by way of rapture vehicle, right? We're getting up out of here, Lord. I'm waiting on you. And people become immobilized, right? They act like hellions down here on the earth and then curse you out in Jesus' name and think they ain't got to do nothing to clean up their mess, right? You ain't going nowhere. You got to fix all of this. And as we began to venture out of the church and get into Torah taught us that we need to, even though it's shenanigans back there, but we learn how to pull the truth from the lies. And the truth that Torah taught us was that we need to become responsible, right? We become responsible for ourselves, even though they still got you doing a little bit of shenanigans, but the more you study, and for those truly in search for the truth and who truly want to do what's right within our heart, we begin to see some underlying principles which led us, wait a minute, first of all, Jesus ain't coming to save me out of all my messes. What? I got to clean it up. I can't just start fires and not put them out. I got to go fix it. I got to control it. I got to clean up the ashes. I got to do what? Right? We realize in Torah that we have to become responsible for ourselves, right? And be like, okay, so now we're here. Okay, now that we're responsible for ourselves, we start asking more questions. And as we begin to ask more questions, we realize there were some things out of line in Torah, which causes us to, okay, Father, Thou Torah has been burnt. It's been rewritten over and over by different people. What do we do at this point? Because the answers we're still seeking for, we're not finding it in this book of 66 that they've given us. And then we put away the New Testament, right? Jesus was fake. And then we come back here on the God that we worship God only, worship Yah only. We changing names. And when we get to the end of all of that, it's like, what next? What do we do next? And so we begin searching. Wait, is other books? Wait, hold on, wait, what? Oh, this explains a little bit more that the Bible didn't explain. Oh my gosh, then you run into more adverse reactions from people. Oh, this is not inspired. Don't do that. You're going off into the deep end. That's new age. I'm only, whatever the book say, that's what, nothing else but the book. Like you run into all these things. And you have to keep persevering in order to continue to change and truly find the source of light. Some people, we lose them along this journey. They get stuck in one portion or another, right? And they don't realize, first of all, if you don't realize that we are here to learn, You won't even have the strength or the fortitude to ask questions. You won't have the strength or courage to ask questions, and you won't have the fortitude to keep going when you run into seemingly roadblocks that are stopping you, whether it's situations or people from the church or from the Hebrew community trying to pull you back in, brethren and sisterin, right, for fear of getting off or probably damning your soul to hell. Like all of these things we have to go through, and we have to literally through all these situations where not only are we renewing our mind, we're growing, our eyes are becoming more open, we're no longer babies asking to be picked up by mommy and daddy, we getting a crawling. Then once we crawl, wait a minute, we got legs and we can actually walk. We see other people walk. How do we do that? Now you start pulling up on tables and walls trying to use your legs, and you're walking and stuff. You might lose your balance a little bit and you fall, but then it's like, oh, I'm keeping my balance, keeping my balance. Now we walking, right? Now we can speed walk and we can jog and we can run, right? So that's how we should be progressing. And then when we realize our feet is too slow, can I get a bike? Yes, but let's start the process all over so you can understand the principles when you want to move a little bit faster in this world. So now we get on the bike and we get training wheels, right? We wobbling, falling side to side. The training wheels, sometimes they help, sometimes they don't. You leaning over to one side, and then you got to lean over to the other because they all off balance. But it's to help you and teach you how to keep your balance. We'll keep one over here. If you lean too far, it'll catch you, right? But you got to pull yourself back over. Stay on the straight road. Whoa, wait. I got it. Now you speed. Man, take these training wheels off. I want to keep up with the big boys, the big girls, right? Take training wheels off. Now you riding, and at a certain point, the bike becomes too slow. It is time to drive. When can I get the keys? So we should be progressing in our spiritual walk just like we do in life. Everything we do in life, it should teach us. It is like in your face representations of what we should be doing in every area of life. For some reason or another, we completely take the spirit and throw it away. It's like you need to find something else to do when everything that we need to know how to do is in here in our face every day. The principles are the same, whether in corporal or spirit or as the unseen world or in the flesh, right? I'm just saying. Okay. Hold on. Okay, we almost done with this chapter. Verse 15. Thou hast said, man can make himself whatsoever he will, so thy creator is worthless to thee. Love is the lightest of all burdens. If thou desirest not to carry their love, how didst thou carry their hate so long? Nevertheless, if thou desirest, thou can put them away. They are thine. Do as thou wilt. Uzziah said, how can I put them away? I cannot reason with 50 millions. Nay, before I persuaded a score, the first ones, so ignorant, would forget what I said, and a score is 20, right? So before he persuaded 20, the first one forgot what he said. I cannot reason with 50 millions. Nay, before I persuaded a score, the first ones, so ignorant, would forget what I said. Tell me then, thou goddess, what shall I do to free myself from this great multitude? Esther said, call not on me, but on thy creator, and not be freed for thy own good, but for wisdom to do some good unto them, over whom thou hast long been a remorseless tyrant. These are a small curse to thee, compared to thine own judgment, for from thyself canst thou never flee. Thou shalt undo thy selfish deeds, which thou hast practiced so long. So turn thou at once, and make oath to him who made thee, that from this time forth thou wilt do good unto others with all thy wisdom and strength. Uzziah said, alas, thy words are wise and holy, but I have no faith. I have no faith. Esther said, say not this. Thy words are another bondage on thy soul. Wow. To say I have no faith is to imprison thyself away from all light. Ooh, that's good.
That's real good.
Yeah, look. Hold on. Esther, excuse me. Esther said, say not this. Thy words are another bondage on thy soul. To say I have no faith is to imprison thyself away from all light. Come, haste or lo, I leave thee. For if thou profess not faith, Why shall I longer labor with thee? Say thou, I have faith in thee, O Jehovah. I will raise up these I have cast down. Uzziah wept and thus answered, Oh, that I had faith like unto thee. But for long years I taught myself that prayer to Jehovah was not required of one so great and strong as I. Alas, I smothered out the fire, and amidst his robes Uzziah fell prostrate at Esther's feet. Quickly now she raised her slender hand toward high heaven, saying, O Jehovah, by thy power vested in me, I here encircle this, thy prostrate child, with adamantine light. Down from above there came phosphorescent flames of light, and Esther drew a circle round about, at which the multitude stood back and looked on in wonder and fear. But the surging mass beyond pressed forward, shouting, Uzziah, Uzziah. Little by little, Esther extended the light, and her assistants put up a structure to guard the place, so that in a little while it was like a miniature throne in heaven. Esther then assumed the power, and so took command, placing helpless Uzziah by her side. Meanwhile, her assistants sped through the multitude, making roadways and selecting out the most intelligent of the former slaves and making guards of them. Esther said to Uzziah, Now will I give thee a lesson in righteousness, for thou shalt educate and develop all this host, thy former slaves, to thine own level, erst thou raise thyself one jot or tittle. Bruh, everybody that you done led off and astray, you need to undo this mess and teach them the right way, right? You don't get to get away. We ain't gonna take you and throw you in hell somewhere. Bro, you got to clean up your mess. It's gonna be you. Everybody that you done made slaves of, you need to set them free and teach them how to be righteous, right? You want to be a teacher? You wanted to be a king? Now it's time to really be a king. Kings clean up their messes and lead righteously. Listen. Those that can't, hold on. Oh, I went down to the wrong place. Esther said to Uzziah, Now will I give thee a lesson in righteousness. For thou shalt educate and develop all this host, thy former slaves, to thy own level, erst thou raise thyself one jot or tittle. You ain't rising up until everybody come up to your level, and then you can all come up together, right? Before you move one level higher. For thou shalt educate and develop all this host, thy former slaves, to thy own level, erst thou raise thyself one jot or tittle. Think not it is easy to assume to be a god or lord, or even a mortal king, that they that make servants of others must also raise them up to be angels of light. Y'all hear that? So when y'all get into y'all rulership, your time of rulership, you remember this now. Oh, thank you, ruling now. Remember this. Think not it is easy to assume to be a god or lord or even a mortal king. They that make servants of others must also raise them up to be angels of light. Heaven is just as well as bountiful. To whom Jehovah hath given bountifully, it is commanded he shall give bountifully. For hundreds of years thou hast had the service of these hapless creatures. So shalt thou now serve them by making them intelligent men and women. Yea, till the lowest of them are thine own equals, of whom thou canst be proud and say before the Father, Behold, my sister, behold, my brother, thou, Uzziah, shall not be free. Uzziah said, I perceive thy words are from the All-Highest. This is justice. I perceive now that whilst I rated myself supreme judge of right and wrong, I judge with partiality to myself. Yea, without an All-Highest, I perceive there can be no justice in heaven or earth. O thou all light, how can I approach thee? I have been feeding myself with an endless poison. My darkness was my fortress. Teach me the way, O thou angel of light. Whatsoever Jehovah wills, that will I do, from this time onward, with all my wisdom and strength. So yes, the restorer ordered and divided the multitude into many parts, and sent officers amongst them to select and assort them, so that as soon as Osiris should decree asylums and schools for them, they could be taken to them. And that, my beautiful people, is where we end today. And that was the end of chapter 3. So tomorrow we'll pick up with chapter 4. And we're not going to do the reading from the meditation book today. This was good. I just didn't want to stop. I didn't think we'd go all the way to the 20-minute mark after the time we should be done. But nevertheless, it was good. I hope y'all enjoyed it as much as I did. I'm about to go ahead and end this. All right, y'all. So it is Thursday, May the 26th, 2022, day 118 of year 4 of reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets. And over 4-year consecutive day count, day 1136. And we read pages 122 through 132, Book of Osiris, son of Jehovah. All right, y'all. That's it. We ain't got nothing else. Oh. We should be, this Sunday will be the last Sabbath in this moon cycle, so we should be starting a new month coming soon. So I got to look at my chart, but I just remember this will be the 4th Sabbath, so we should be watching for the moon in the next few days. And I forget which chapter we're reading, so remember, just in case, I think it was Audrey. Somebody asked, Cameron Shalom. Somebody asked, remember when we read about the 4 days of the moon? Remember? I marked it in here, but I didn't put a marker in it to where I can flip to it real quick. But we realized as we kept going that the four holy days of the moon are indeed the Sabbath days. They just call it the 4 holy days of the moon. But as we kept reading, it referred to the 4 holy days of each moon cycle. And when I read that part, it clicked. I'm like, oh, these are the Sabbaths. So they call them holy days of the moon in here. In the Bible, we call them the Sabbath. But it's talking about the same exact thing. In every moon cycle, there are 4 holy days of that moon, which are called Sabbath, which is every 7th day, right? Four Sabbaths, which are literally their 4 quarters is the end of each quarter. So each quarter runs about a week, and then at the end of that quarter, you have a Sabbath day, right? Or the first at the new moon, the first one is the first Sabbath of that moon cycle, and it just repeats over and over as time goes on for every new moon, right? So they just called it out as the 4 holy days of the moon, but it's the 4 holy days of every moon cycle. Since it's to infinity, as long as we have a moon, you couldn't just say, okay, we got 1 billion such and such days of the holy day. No, it's just the 4 holy days of the moon. What moon? Any moon. Any moon only has 4 holy days, has 4 quarters, right? At the end of each quarter, you have a Sabbath day, right? And if you learn the phases and the quarters of the moon, even if you lose all awareness of time, you should be able to look at the sky at any given day and time, understand when the moon shows what quarter or what phase it's in, and you should be able to tell what week you are in throughout the month, and you should be able to tell when the Sabbath comes, right? So the phases, the moon wanes, meaning it gets bigger, then it waxes, it gets smaller. I remember that Karate Kid. Wax on, wax off, right? So waxing is getting smaller. Yeah, well, they say wax on, wax off, but really waxing is getting smaller. Waning is getting bigger. Hold on. No, did I say that wrong? I probably said that wrong. But anyway, the moon waxes great. So wax is getting bigger. Waning meaning is you're losing strength. Yeah, I just screwed that all up. Okay, so wax on is getting bigger. Wax the moon on in full brightness, right? Wax it on, right? It gets big. Waning, it's losing its light. Okay. So with each phase of that, you will be able to see. What week you are in every month and which particular Sabbath you're about to go into, whether it's the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, or the 4th. So I hope y'all get that. With that being said, though, that's it for today. I love y'all. May y'all continue to bless you in all that you do. And may you continue to grow on purpose every single day. Being consistent, right? So that within a year's time, you won't even recognize yourself. You'll be completely different from what you were the last year, right? Because sometimes as we grow, people are like, man, you don't see the daily growth. But it's like, man, you done got taller, right? It's amazing how that happens. In order to actually catch the growth, a camera would need to be on us like 24/7, watching every moment, right? But we don't really see children grow. They just grow before our eyes without us recognizing, oh, they're growing. They're growing right now. We don't see that. It's just a daily process of consistently feeding, bathing, keeping yourself clean, and it just happens. Even though your physical face doesn't change, we can tell that your physical face has matured and you no longer have a baby face. For men, they get facial hair and stuff and the voice change, but we don't physically see that. Although we do physically see it, but it's like we catch it after the fact. Y'all get what I'm saying, right? It should be the same way with your spiritual growth. Everything. All right, so with that being said, that's it. I love y'all, and I'll see y'all back here tomorrow morning, bright and early, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace.